Okay, there we go.
Okay. I do think I want to exit. We do not have a rumble in here.
Uh, is that still, I moved those. Oh, the agenda. So
I
sorry.
I got it, no
So
problem.
sorry. Um, I think it
Hi,
looks,
Mark?
this
Kristen.
looks really good.
Hi, Cindy.
Hey,
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
doing
Good.
great.
Yeah. Mark, I wonder why that says Cindy on your, like instead of your name, it says Cindy.
Weird. What?
Identity theft. It's identity theft. You
Mark?
caught me. I'm sorry.
Is that your real
Uh,
background? That's so
I
cool.
know, isn't it beautiful?
That that's a room, a
Oh,
place here in North Carolina.
those are
Oh, that's
goals.
so beautiful.
Those are my
Yeah.
goals right there.
It
Walls of books.
looks
Love them.
it
Love
is
it.
one of those fake ones you put up.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
If you click on
Well,
you can change your
yeah,
name.
I can probably rename it.
Yeah,
I don't know why it did that. Hasn't done that all day yet.
that's
That's
super
weird.
weird. Yeah.
Okay, Mark, so you are going to kick us off. I'm just kind of running through these slides to refresh my memory.
Yep.
And you're going to
Go
kick
right
us
ahead.
off. And then when you pass to us, Cindy, I'd like to say that Cindy's going to be watching the chat, and I will stop to ask periodically for questions, and Cindy will
Good.
read those questions out of the chat.
Good. Works.
Because I'm happy to have people ask questions throughout.
And what's your expected runtime, Kristen?
Oh, that's a good question. It says 40 minutes. I think like probably that would be very much based on people asking questions. I would
Right.
think this is about 20.
Okay. Good.
Um,
And at the end, we can take more questions. Uh,
right.
maybe
Mark, do
is
you
it
think
worth
we should,
asking?
yeah, do you think we should try and end by 6:45?
I think we should. I think people will start peeling off.
Yes.
One thing we could say to people is that we'll take questions for clarification as we go along. You'll pause for those periodically, but that and you can say this as you begin, but that if they have other questions, go beyond that. They want an application of something that they can say that to the end, and we'll have time to discuss that. That way, more people can hang in longer, get the content, and then if they peel off before the questions, they don't miss something.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this
Okay.
is this.
You were going to have a day today. Well,
Oh, you were cutting out just a little bit, Mark.
well,
Oh,
you got to have to see go.
yeah,
Oh
but
no, it's really cutting out.
it's really cutting out. But you said we had a really busy day. Yes, we did.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's real choppy.
Uh, why you all see? I can go out and come back.
That's
Well, that was
always,
great.
yeah, that's my first thought.
I will try that. See you in a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Hi there.
Hey there.
Hi,
Hello.
Kathy. Good to see you.
See you too.
Hello.
Krista and Cindy, is this better for the audio on my end?
It sure
Yes.
is.
Okay, great. Sorry, I sent you both emails. I was in the waiting room hanging out,
Oh,
waiting for you
Oh,
guys
I'm
to let
so
me in.
sorry.
sorry. I didn't see that.
But I'm still Cindy, so I got to
I know
rename.
why is everyone
Oh yeah, we got
Cindy?
to fix your name, Mark.
I'm the real Cindy.
So I'm the
Awesome.
real
So
Cindy.
funny.
Oh, and Peter is a Cindy too. He's right above you. Peter Davidson.
Peter, are you in here?
Except I'm renamed Cindy.
Well,
Other than
I'm
that, I'm here.
I always knew there was something about you that was sort of mysterious.
that's so funny. I've never seen this happen before.
I know it must
So,
have something to do with the
The
invite.
settings. I'm gonna go look at it real quick, Chris.
Peter, change your name. You can go up to the little
That's
thing
so
in the
funny.
corner. I think. Do you
Yeah,
have
the little three dots at the top.
the little in the upper right hand
Yep.
corner? Yeah. Weird.
oh my goodness, two of my favorite people here, Kathy and Peter, at the same time.
So,
Good to see you, Mark.
Good to
So
see you, Peter. Hope you're well. Hope Mary's well. Everything's going okay.
Yeah, and same back with your family.
Good. Yeah.
Did you know
Fun
I'm
watching.
grandfather?
You're a grandfather?
yeah,
Great grandfather.
Great grandfather. Oh my goodness. I'm a brand new grandfather. So you're leading the way here, man.
that's
I'm
great.
I'm one up on you for sure.
Yeah, you are. Oh my goodness.
So cool.
Congratulations.
Love it.
Boy or girl?
Girl, and she is adorbs, as they say.
Aw.
Of course. Of course. And where when how old is she? When was she born?
She's in Phoenix and she's almost 2 months old.
Ah, all right. Cool. Well, that's not too far away. You can scoot over there and see her.
Great.
So tell me about your grandbaby.
Well, he's 8 months now.
Oh,
So
great.
he
Awesome.
is crawling around all over the place.
Aw.
That's just great.
It's
Well,
fun.
give Alex my regards and
I will.
congratulations.
I'll see them toward the end of the week when I'm in LA. So
Oh,
thanks.
wonderful.
Oh wow. Good to catch up with everyone. Sounds like we're expecting a crowd
Yeah,
on
I
this one.
don't know how.
Hopefully people will show up and not just register to get the recording, but
Yeah,
that's what they
that's
do. That
typical today, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, it is.
I see Kari's here, Mona's here, Nicole's here, George is here,
Good. They're starting to come in. Great.
All
Laura from
right.
the Philippines,
Uh,
Zainab, Carolyn.
Nicole.
Wonderful. Lots of great schools.
There's a whole lot of Cindy Calvins.
Ari
What's
Heading.
all of that?
Laura Woloff is in Philippines.
Neat.
Yeah. She's
That's
so
great.
awesome.
Hi, Kathy and Peter and Mark. Nice to
Oh,
see you guys.
Kari, good to see
Hi,
you.
Kari. Good to see you again too.
So glad you're here.
Yeah, I am too.
This is exciting. It's a whole new look at things. We're going to learn a lot. Oh, and Mandy Budge. Amanda is in Ghana.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow. Neat.
Very cool.
Wow, there she is.
Neat. That's, I wondered if we would get folks from your far-flung network in, so that's
Yeah.
terrific.
Well, you know, when we went on Zoom during the pandemic, it changed everything. We had people from all over the world join us. And that was the one wonderful thing about the pandemic.
well said.
Neat.
Yeah, just so amazing.
Oh, very neat.
Because of the Zoom, I could finish my WSL.
There you go, Mona.
It was so nice. Say hi.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you all.
Mona, are you in the US or are you in Dubai right now?
No, I'm in US right now.
Okay, that's good. Glad you're safe.
Yes, thank you.
And there's Laura saying hello to everyone in the Philippines.
We're at 7 a.m. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
isn't that great? Bernadita is in
Bernardita.
Chile. Bernadita is in Chile.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Isn't that great?
wow.
Wow, we're international.
Very
Yes,
cool.
very.
So cool. Yeah, she's
Let's
coming
see,
for
what
Project 6 soon.
what time is it in Ghana for our person there? Must be 11 p.m. Thank you. You read my mind. You put it right in
I
there.
did.
Wow. That is incredible.
So are you
Wow.
in Accra?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hi,
know Accra. I've
Mandy.
done
Great to
some work
see
with
you.
Lincoln School before.
Oh, okay.
I think,
Yes, I've worked
Mark,
with them.
if you, oh, not to interrupt, but anytime you're ready to kick off, we haven't had anybody enter in a couple of minutes, but I'll keep my eye on it as well.
Good. So Kathy, George, do either one of you want to welcome people? Then I'll take it and pass it to Kristen.
All right. Well, I'm Kathy Minardi, Executive Director of Whole School Leadership, and it is our great pleasure to have Mark Frankel from Triangle Associates bring us this wonderful new look at marketing, focusing on what's our brand, which is something we haven't done ever. And so we have a whole new way of approaching with Mark, with what Mark has brought to us, joining with Hoot Design Company, which is a marketing company. So we're really excited to learn more and so grateful that he has been able to bring this wonderful adventure to us. So thank you, Mark Frankel, our dear friend.
Thank you, Kathy. And it's great to see so many people that I know on this meeting and so many new people. So that's a privilege. Wish we could all take time to talk, but we got some ideas to get across tonight, and we'll dive right into those. I want to say a few words about the origin of this session, because I think it's important to put something in context. And I begin by saying that in the industry, maybe in all industries, but certainly in the education space, there's a tendency to conflate marketing with advertising, that marketing is all about getting the message out. I think the value of today's session is about getting an expanded notion about what marketing is. And it's really, before you get around to buying the ad or placing the spot, it's deciding what the message is and about how your school is going to be known. So I'll start with an observation that's not going to surprise anybody on this Zoom. If you take the home pages of 20 private independent schools, if you blurred the logos and read the language side by side, it would really be hard to tell them apart. People talk about academics, whole child, inclusive community, nurturing critical thinking, future-ready learners, caring teachers who know each student by name. I suspect there's no school anywhere that runs an ad saying, we don't have caring teachers. The words rearrange themselves, but the substance is the same. And that's the problem that we keep running into. I keep going to school after school where the head or the board chair laments to me, we got something special here and no one knows about it. We're the best kept secret in town. And those words really are dooming to a school enterprise. With Montessori schools, it's even more striking. You pull up the home pages of 15 Montessori schools, and you're going to find the same vocabulary, almost word for word, except some of them are Montessori something. And most of the folks on this call are either going to be AMI or AMS, and at least have fidelity to a tradition around Montessori that's got some meat to it. So the shared language isn't the problem in itself. It's really a sign of fidelity to that approach. The problem is that when multiple schools are using the same words, then it stops to be meaningful, and it stops to being useful to parents in distinguishing themselves, the school they want to send their kids to. One of the reasons that I'm so excited about bringing Hoot to you is that the folks at Hoot themselves had kids in Montessori schools, so they know they felt the merchandise, and they know how to apply the content of what we're approaching tonight. That's the problem we're here to address. It's because the families you're trying to reach are doing comparison shopping at a rate and pace that is in my 35 or 40 years in the business, we've not seen. In antiquity, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, parents looked at maybe two or three schools and often picked one for convenience. Not unusual for me in focus groups in Montessori schools to hear parents comparing maybe your school against 6 to 8 other alternatives. Some of them are faith-based, some of them are traditional independent, some of them are strong public schools, often public Montessori schools. So they ask questions on parent forums. They read everything that you publish. They absorb all of this information. The problem is it's really hard to distinguish what sets your school, really any school, apart. And when that happens, you start to hear things from people like, well, how bad can first grade really be? And the answer to that is, well, really bad. But they may have to go experience it themselves before they get there. For Montessori schools, this has a particular edge. The Montessori method itself is a recognizable brand, which is true for families that already understand Montessori. But the trap, though, is that your school needs to stand out not just from other independent schools, other private schools, but from other Montessori schools. And that's, I think, where the folks from Hoot Design really have something to say. This is really true of independent schools writ large: progressive, classical, faith-based, single-sex, IB, hybrid, outdoor, project-based. We could run down the lexicon of terms to describe schools. The category label isn't the problem, isn't the identity. The category label is a starting point. And I think that's the idea I want you to begin this with, is that being a Montessori school is where we begin. Now what? How do we do the work it takes to explain to the world what makes us special in a way that gets folks to understand that and decide then if they want to opt in, rather than assume that we are just another school, another very good school, even perhaps. So what is the work? And that's why I've invited my friend Kristen Graham-Brown and her colleague Cindy Calvin to join us for a webinar this evening, this morning, tonight, wherever you are, to share some thoughts about doing that. And you'll need to think about your specific situation and how this translates into that environment. But I find what Hoot does particularly valuable. And in fact, a full disclosure so that you know, Triangle selected Hoot to design our web presence. So we know them, we trust them, we use them, and wouldn't bring anybody otherwise. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, who will walk you through the next little while, at the end of which I'll come back in and moderate questions and discussion at the end if you have any. So keep a pad of paper handy and be writing down any questions that you want us to go deeper on as we get to that end. But Kristen will talk in a moment about how to handle questions for clarification and so forth as we go along. Take it away, Kristen.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you all from joining from all over. That is someone at 11 p.m. You're my hero, because that's crazy. So we're going to really try and make this worth your time. And as Mark said, I'm Kristen Graham-Brown. I'm the owner and founder of Hoot, and I operate as our chief strategist. And I have Cindy with me tonight, who's also a strategist and worked on the case study that we're going to walk through with you guys. We also have Emma Dorge with us, who's ready to help anybody who might want to set up a strategy call with us. If you can put any of your questions throughout in the chat, Cindy will read those out kind of as we're going when they make sense. And then, of course, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end as well. But if it's really relevant, we're happy to make this a discussion throughout the entire presentation. Okay. So what we're going to talk about, the problem, the story, the solution, and what's next. And I so appreciate Mark, teeing off that we are big believers in Montessori ourselves. We actually have a partnership with a Montessori school in town where our employees get 50% off tuition, which is a huge benefit to them, obviously. So we are, we're big believers, and we've walked beside them as they've gone from almost closing to now being a thriving school. And we're going to talk about that. Another thing to keep in mind today is that as AEO and GEO become such a big part of the way that parents are searching, which means that they're going to LLMs or AI chatbots to help them identify where they should be sending their school, even what's the starting list. It's more critical than ever that our websites and our brands are very specific, that they're clear, and that they're findable. Because if we confuse, the LLMs are bouncing off. It literally costs them money to try and decipher what your website is saying or who you're for or what makes you different. So they just leave. So in moving forward, it will become more critical than ever that we nail this brand stuff down. So the problem we see, which Mark so eloquently identified, oh, we've got a couple more people coming in. I'll keep letting them in. Is Montessori is a method, not a brand. And especially if you're in a big city or urban environment, they have many, many Montessori school options, right? Even in our small town, we have 3 with less than 200,000 people.
Hey, Kristen.
Oh, yeah.
Would you please define some of the acronyms that you're using as you go along for people who may not
Absolutely.
know? Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So AEO and GEO are really the new forms of SEO, which SEO is search engine optimization. And now we have generative engine optimization. So, meaning when we're using those terms, it means how are we showing up to these LLMs? And LLM stands for large language model, which is like, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. I mean, there's so many of them now. We're huge Claude fans. So, we're going to be rooting for you to use Claude if you haven't dipped your toe in it yet. And the tool that we help people create is actually extremely beneficial when we're able to leverage it with AI. Any more questions on that though? Yeah, that I'm so glad you stopped me, Cindy, because that can be when you live in this stuff every day, you don't think about it. So, something that we see a lot is that enrollment problems are often brand problems, right? Because if I can't stand out, if people can't find me, or especially when we're dealing with something as critical as our children, if there's any trust being eroded, I'm immediately moving on, right? I'm not going to take the time to try and figure out a clunky bad website if if I don't think you're trustworthy, right? With my children. There's pretty much nothing more important to us. So I think when you can't articulate what makes your school worth choosing, you're going to compete on tuition. So when we try to reach everyone, we reach no one. And this is probably one of the most controversial things we're going to say throughout this whole presentation is we really want you to narrow down exactly who you're for, which means that we should repel some people. And I know that's probably making people be like, whoa, but I would tell you that a really good brand does repel the wrong people. The people that are not actually right for your school, we waste a lot of time and energy on them when they're not right for us. So we'll go much deeper into that, but that's usually one of the things I say that people are the most resistant to. Brand also has huge implications for your own team. I cannot emphasize enough how much this affects internal culture, hiring. I don't know if you guys have heard of employer brand, which is basically the same thing as external brand. It just means what do our teachers and staff and what do our administrators say? Are they proud to work here? Are they proud to wear our sweatshirts? Do they recruit their friends to come work for us as well or not? And that's one of the biggest benefits that a very strong brand can have for you. And it's often overlooked because people think it's just about marketing. So the Montessori specific problem is that word Montessori is the beginning of an answer, not the whole one, just as Mark already said. It's like a method, it's a foundation, but it's not your brand. Every Montessori school in your market can say the same thing. So how are we going to help suss out what is our story? And we think the best way to tell you about this is to tell you about our sister school, the school that we have partnered with to offer our team discount tuition, a school that almost wasn't. So, Windsor Street Montessori had 13 students. It was weeks from closing its doors when I believe at the time she was just the chef, decided to buy the school, buy the property, and take over. So it had the Montessori philosophy. She was very Montessori trained. They had the program, but what they didn't have was clarity on who they were for, or to say it in a way that would make families listen and be able to share. And this was, I can't emphasize enough, the biggest transformation happened for the director, who's now the owner, and the staff, that has now rippled out across the entire community. And we'll share some of their stats towards the end. So the program wasn't the problem. They were a well-known Montessori program. It was that there was no story, no differentiation. And the solution that we provided them is our proprietary process that we built called the brand being. And the reason that we call it this is we say brand is the being, marketing is the doing. So kind of how Mark said in the beginning, how, people they want to advertise, they want to build a website. They often want to do this before doing any of the foundational work that says, but what are we actually trying to say? What do we believe? Who are we? Why should people choose us over someone else? We're obsessed with getting the things checked off our to-do list, right? Which is like build the website. Who cares what it says, And often people come to us and say, we need a website. They have no idea what should be on it. So that's what we're telling you. When you have the being, the doing becomes so much easier. And by easier, I also mean more efficient and less expensive. But we need the buy-in of our board, our staff, our leadership to actually build a brand being one time. Often we revisit this every 5 to 10 years, but that's a pretty good ROI. So brand being is the infrastructure that connects what you look like and how you make decisions. It brings that whole thing together. The brand being has 3 phases: brand heart, brand positioning, and brand personality. A lot of people think that brand is what you see, right? Your logo, maybe the homepage of your website. That is actually a pretty easy part of the process, if you ask me, if phase 1 and 2 are done correctly. And phase 1 and 2 are where we need a lot of foundational buy-in. And when we're done, this is what we walk away with. So these are all of the elements that we offer the people that work with us on brand being. We start with vision, purpose. Business statement is just who you are, which in your guys' case is not nearly as confusing. For some people, it's like, are we an agency, a firm, a consultancy? But in your case, that's not so complicated. Core values are huge. And have we operationalized our core values? Do we actually hold our people accountable? Can everyone say our core values, from our executive director down to the person volunteering for Halloween? Actually, I know you guys don't even do Halloween. Then we're going to do our point of difference and our value prop. So what makes us different and why should the target care? Who is the target? So ICP stands for I'm blanking on it right now, but it's ideal client profile is your brand advocate. So that's your one family that we're targeting. Your brand tension point is something that we've come up with. It's 2 words that wouldn't typically go together that help us identify what we should look and sound like. That's like a measuring stick so that we know, for example, Hoots is poised disruption. The school that we're going to tell you about, their brand tension point is brave playfulness. So they want to make sure that they are playful and fun and bright and kid friendly, but what they're doing is actually kind of brave, courageous, and disruptive, and they want people to know about it. Then how do we sound and what do we look like? These are so important to nail down so that they never become the decision of one person, one marketing person, one executive director. That's not a strong brand. That's just someone's personal opinion.
Oh, Kristen, really quick. Can
Yeah.
you say more about the brand advocate for schools? Many school leaders want to be the school for everyone.
Yes, and this is especially challenging, I know, in a space like yours. So what I would tell you is that when we often go into large organizations, we have one person in the bullseye and we have a lot of people on the outer rings of the bullseye. You could consider those marketing targets. So you might have, for example, with the school we work with, there's a toddler room, a primary room, and a elementary school. The elementary parent is looking for something different, right? So she has an elementary school target, but I would say that the center of the bullseye is where there's most potential for growth, or there's most profit, or that's the part of the school with the most demand. Because when we have limited marketing dollars, if you try and spread that across multiple targets, you will fail. It makes everyone's life harder when we try to go after multiple targets. Now, when I say brand advocate, these are not real people. What we're going to talk you through is how we build out a person who has like what is the similar psychographics that our best families share. And psychographics meaning, what do they believe? What do they value? What keeps them up at night? How do they view themselves? Those are all the things that we need to be able to speak to, because if we can't speak to their pain, their fear, their pride, their joy, we will not get them to take action. So if there's one thing that you take away from this whole presentation, I would say it's that to walk through the exercise of what are the psychographics that your best families have in common and how do we speak to those directly would make a massive difference in the way that you market. And we have to say that we don't care. We know that we are not for everyone. So a great example of this is Hoot is woman owned and led. I am the owner. And we really wave that banner very high. We work with mostly men. So even though we might say target a female entrepreneur and we tell the whole world that we're women owned and led and we're very proud of it, we bring in the right type of male client. Does that make sense? There's no sign outside that says no, you know. But I know this is the most challenging thing that we probably say to people. So brand heart has 3 parts: vision, purpose, and values. And I feel really strongly about helping people build out the vision, the purpose, and the values. Lots of people have mission statements. I can kind of take or leave those. Usually if we go into an organization and they already have one, I say no problem, but I really want you to have vision, purpose, and values. And we frame those up in a specific way. We're going to show you that. So the vision statement of Windsor Street Montessori is to create a world where children are empowered to care for themselves, enabling them to care for others. So this is very big. We start at the very top. It's huge. It's a world you may never live to see. Some people will say, like, we want a waiting list. We want to be a $10 million organization. That's not a vision. Is that doesn't get anyone through the Sunday scaries, right? And once I hit that marker, what happens then? We want the vision to pull us forward on, our toughest days. Our purpose is to promote peace through the power of food forward Montessori education. So in her case, this is very specific to her, which I highly recommend that we try and find that thing that makes you really stand out. She is a chef and she had the most beautiful story about being a Venezuelan immigrant who landed in, in Miami, and one of her most vivid core memories was the plastic tray at the lunch table and how kind of disassociated that felt from her previous food experience. So Windsor Street is going all in on food forward, which is really a term that they've coined, an approach that cultivates a healthy, mindful relationship with our planet through whole body nourishment and understanding of the interconnectedness between culture, environment, and community. So you can imagine that is speaking to parents who care about that. And people say all the time they love Windsor Street because of the food, because of the gardening and the harvesting, and how these kids are taught about the entire life cycle of the plants. The values, we really like to look at the values. I would say Hoot is very ride or die about values. Values have a bad rap because a lot of people think they're words on a wall and they're kind of meaningless. That's the opposite of how they should feel. They should be the bedrock of the culture, and they really should be what we hire and fire on. So we fire people when they are out of alignment with our values. And you really want to think of your values in a way, how do they touch our staff and how do they touch our families? What is expected of staff and what is expected of our families when they are value aligned with us? So something that was really important to Gabby was worthiness. She felt like, there is a lack of, many teachers feel a lack of worthiness. So, and then how do we double down on that? Like providing them like mental health support, or ways that we help them support through their own kind of stress because they might feel a lack of worthiness in investing in themselves, or even an ability to, of course. So Gabby didn't bring Montessori to Windsor. She brought her own story. A Venezuelan immigrant who arrived in America was handed a colorless lunch on a brown plastic tray. Food as isolation or food as belonging. That personal truth became the soul of the school's brand and the reason families can't stop talking about it. That is also storytelling, right? We remember stories, they're so sticky. So when people are on the street telling other people about Windsor, they can say like, "Oh, you wouldn't believe the food program. Everything's made from scratch. It's owned by Chef Gabby and her wife Christina, who, they everything they do is built around this story of food and transformation through food." Which again, we remember that. It's not just it is a Montessori school. Brand positioning is about identifying your target and your point of difference and the value proposition. And like I said, this is where a lot of people get tripped up because I'm going to ask you to plant a flag in the sand. So, their point of difference is we redefine learning through food forward practices to build children ages infant to third grade into leaders and stewards of the community. They are specifically for this fake avatar. So this is fake. This is not a real family, Lena and Drew Barlow. But again, through the power of storytelling, we're able to make them sticky so that when her team is talking about marketing efforts, we're talking about Lena and Drew and we know who they are. But what's more important is what they care about. So demographics often do tell us a lot about psychographics. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this stat, but like if you know someone's car and what dog they have, you can guess within like 85 percentile how they're likely to vote, something crazy like that. So it's not that we're obsessed with demographics, it's that demographics tell us about psychographics. What car I drive often says a lot about what I believe, right? Do I have a Ford F-150 or I drive a Prius? It's not about the car, it's about the values. And that's what I would ask you guys to explore. We do a very in-depth story about this family, why they came, why they stayed, and why they're obsessed. Again, this is all about creating kind of a texture of storytelling about this fictional family who lives in this area. Another thing this is fabulous for is when we're talking to our staff, we can create real empathy. a lot of staff at this school in particular, they're young. They're not parents yet. So what does it feel like to be putting your child into a school for 8 hours a day while you go to work? This storytelling creates empathy for our staff who might have no idea. And it's also educating them on it's the journey through the school, right? It's the journey through like how they found us. What is important as they are making this decision? What was the interview process like? What was the tour like? What are the things that stand out to them? And then again, why they're obsessed. So now that they've already been a part of our school, what are they telling people? Again, this is all fictional, but made, it's pulling multiple real stories into one fictional story. Now, if you're thinking, I'd hate to identify race, gender, we are very often tasked with pulling, creating gender neutral names or using they, them pronouns or, making sure that these hit all of our kind of DEI touch points when it comes to making sure that we are an accessible school for everyone. So their point of difference wasn't Montessori, it was the table. And that food forward effort wrapped in this Gabby's very personal story. Once Windsor could say that clearly, she stopped being one of several Montessori options and became the only school that was owned and operated by an immigrant chef. And then lastly, after all of that hard work happens, now we are ready to build out what we look and sound like. As I was saying, I think a brand tension point is extremely helpful because, again, we really concentrate on building tools for people, not deliverables. This is a fabulous tool to have in your back pocket. When someone brings you a brochure, you have a new vendor create, someone's daughter's dabbling in graphic design, you want to let them do a brochure for you. You can say, this doesn't feel like brave playfulness to me because we've identified exactly what brave playfulness means. In this case, this is a vision board you're looking at, which is to say to Gabby, hey, are we on the same page about what brave playfulness feels like to you as it does to us? She approves that. And then we move into building out the assets. So you can see their old logo here and their new identity here. We're going to make sure that we give you lots of tools to use. Again, like, what are we doing on water bottles? They actually did these stickers, which was so fun. And so now they have, all their students have stickers out in the world on all of their things with little vegetables. A photo shoot is a great way to bring a lot of realness to your identity, not using stock. This can be a challenge too. Plenty of our clients do use stock. So once you have the being, the doing is simple. This just absolutely transformed Windsor. Not only the visual identity, but staff recruitment, the training, the enrollment messaging, the community events, all of it followed from one clear identity and nothing felt forced. Everything felt very much like them. And her stats are pretty astounding. So this school was almost closing. They now have over 50 students, a waiting list. So her only issue now is figuring out how to grow in a very controlled way, so she doesn't overwhelm herself or her staff. And they've also 3x fundraising. And I think that's something that we didn't talk enough about probably in this presentation, because once I can actually tell people why they should care, like why should anyone in this town care about a school that their kids don't attend? Well, if I can tell you a story about sustainability and agriculture and food, and maybe draw on something that you relate to, it can create a wider message for the whole community. So brain clarity doesn't just fill classroom, it builds a school people believe in. We have this, funny thing here where we say we want people to drink the Kool-Aid. I know that's kind of a terrible metaphor, but we love when people are so bought into our vision and our purpose that they are shouting it from the rooftops. And this is just a really great quote from her. We wanted to end on this because I do think this is one of the coolest things about this process. Hoots Branding has given us the powerful language to define our identity, our focus, our culture, enabling us to communicate our message with profound meaning. But it has done more than that. It has transformed our self-perception, touching us at our very core, not because we were lost, but because it empowered us to embrace our true worth. So I think it's kind of one of those things like, at the end of this process, we want you to feel like you want a chest bump. Like you're so pumped about your school and what you guys have to offer. That is a lasting effect that will transform your school for years to come, that no marketing person can ever, truly do anything more than that, I would say, is transform you inside and the effects that would come from that. And that's all we have. We'd love to take your questions.
I have a question right off the bat. Is that okay?
Yes.
Go for it, Kathy. Dive in.
I can't help but wonder, since you have your children in this school, what kind of an impact has it made on your children? What have you seen in terms of the impact?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, I think I was a fan before this process. I think it really helped me probably listen better to what my daughter was actually saying. Like she would say something like, it's time to harvest in our yard.
So
And
you
we
the
have,
language.
yes, and we have nothing to harvest. But I think that would have been something before I would have been like, what? And now I feel like I'm really paying attention more. And their social media has done wonders too. She does an incredible job of sharing the story. Um, I think in a way that is really delightful for like the whole community.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a great question. I think that kids love, love, love Windsor.
Sounds
I'm
good.
happy to jump in too. So I have
Go ahead, Emma.
two little ones at Windsor currently, and one about to join the minute that there's a spot available. And I think what's so great is just seeing the true spirit of the school, like that brave playfulness is, yes, the direction of the brand, but it's truly also a sentiment to the way that my children show up at home and the way that they are displaying practical life in these ways and talking about planting and harvesting and begging us to come on gardening day and just their openness to new things and new cultures. We are a primarily English speaking family, and there's a lot of Spanish speaking staff. And so my 2-year-old will come home and say words, and she's she's trying to speak the Spanish that she's hearing in school. And it's just an incredible environment. And I am saddened about the days I think when they won't able to be in that environment. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Emma, for jumping in. Catherine, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for doing this. When you first started, I was like, okay, I know all this. And then immediately the nuggets started pinging about things I didn't know.
I'm so glad.
So my question for you is this concept of, I love this idea of having a brand avatar, but in a school that begins at 18 months and goes all the way through middle school, the psychographics of your ideal family are going to change. So I'll be curious what your thoughts are about as Windsor begins to grow, whether or not there you need to tweak, what the brand is for your parents of middle schoolers who ideas are completely different than they are for toddlers.
Yes, and Catherine, this is something we hear all the time because, we do work with very, very large organizations like 700 employees, and they have many marketing targets, is what I would call them. So my
Okay.
question to you is there a part of the school that is the most where you feel like they have the most growth potential?
Uh, yes and no. I want to say yes and no because ideally what we want to do is grow from the bottom up, but we have holes. So we need to fill those holes as well. So you could say that the biggest potential is in the, later elementary, middle school, but at the same time, we want to fill from the bottom. So I don't know if that really answers your question.
Well, and that's a challenge that our school is going through as well. What I would say is let's build out advocates for every level. Like I was saying at, toddler, primary and elementary when it comes to Windsor. And then
Hmm.
they know where they actually have no problems whatsoever with toddler. Primary is where they want to focus
Yeah.
their marketing dollars is kind of how you want to think of it. And
Hmm.
then they are making a very concerted effort on elementary because you're exactly right. It's a completely different ball game for parents deciding to pay for school instead of go to public or go here instead of parochial school. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think that that is what I would say is let's build them out for every level and then let's dial them up. Like part of your marketing strategy for 2026 or 7 could be, hey, this year we're focusing on this target,
Okay.
Lena and Drew Barlow, whatever. And then we know that next year we're making a concerted effort on this level.
So that makes sense. And because it's very easy to be like scattershot, we got to put a little bit
Yes,
everywhere. But if you can say, so you're saying, create a focus and then you can shift that, the next year or once you've made the goal or whatever the case might be.
absolutely. Because if you want to move the needle, we have to be focused.
Okay.
And it's not because we're saying no to any of these other parents.
Hmm.
It just means we're specifically focused on this target this year. And
Okay.
again, there's no sign out there.
Right. Of
I
course
think that
not.
that's the thing that people feel like, we're saying no to middle schoolers, but really it's just where we have to choose where to dedicate our attention. We're choosing this.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Great questions.
Other questions? Anyone want to jump in? If not, I'll jump in. So, Kristen, Gabby's story seems, let's say, unique. Not every school has a similar story around a trained chef and an immigrant with that backstory to
Yeah.
begin the conversation. So, what I'm going to put you on the spot. How might this look in a school with a less compelling story? Say their origin story was a group of 6 parents got together and decided they wanted to have a school, or 4 Montessori teachers got together and decided they wanted to have a school. What would you say?
Okay, so the thing I would say about that is almost I've never come across a story that I thought wasn't worth building a brand around because no one else will be able to create that story. So like those 4 teachers, tell me more. Those 6 parents who felt left out or ostracized or like they didn't belong, I bet there's a great story there. Anyone who's taken the time to put together a school has surely felt pretty motivated. And I would guess it's pretty emotional. So that is like one of I would say the honor that we get to do is walk beside people as they kind of unpack that story.
I would just recalling from my school in Washington, D.C., it during its 50th anniversary, it had all kinds of stories, but they really didn't amount to anything. And all of a sudden, a parent called me from the north side of Washington, D.C. to say, I was part of the group that started the school. Would you like to know the story? And it was phenomenal. And so all of a sudden we had it. Exactly what you're talking about. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was a wow.
Yeah, I would say, I would love the challenge of talking to anybody who thinks that there's not a good story there. There almost always is. And we always say it's hard to see the label from inside the jar. Like sometimes you don't know how remarkable it is until an outsider comes and says, like Gabby, that was just Gabby's life. She didn't think anything of it until we were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This story about the lunch tray is so memorable. Like it gives you chills.
I think what you're talking about, Kristen, is getting back to what's the animating purpose of your school.
Yeah.
What's the animating idea that began it? Some of the folks on this call know, not everyone does, that I'm a trustee at a I think maybe perhaps the most highly progressive K-12 independent school in the country in Los Angeles, and we're coming up on our 65th anniversary. So we were we're trying to recover a bit of the history and engaged some folks to help us do that. And it was really amazing. There were animating ideas back there that had gotten lost. So Kathy, your story of somebody calling up and saying, I got the story. Most Montessori schools, not all, but most, are young enough to be able to have somebody out there that can help them recover that. Any other questions? People have comments?
So I'm going to share my story. So we've been around for 61 years. And we have the story. The person who started the school was looking for a preschool for her daughter. Back then in the 1960s, everything was in a church basement and was not very high quality. And so she felt that children deserved more respect than that. And she actually went to a lecture at Sale University and then decided to be trained and started the school. And the problem now is, of course, there's many Montessori schools around me. I'm on the east side of Seattle. So we're like the granddaddy of them all kind of thing, because most of the teachers, we had the training center for a while. So, but it's all about Montessori. And I was just talking to a marketing person who said, well, if you're elementary, it's hard because a lot of your clients are from Asia. And the word primary that you're using, or even Montessori, is associated, Montessori is associated with preschool. Mm-hmm. And so you're looking to get elementary. They don't even though you have an elementary and you keep promoting it, they still think that it's just preschool. So that's kind of the problem we're having. Our elementary has actually been around for 50 years, but our clientele has changed. So yeah, it's a tough one. And the thing is, preschools aren't in church basements anymore. They're in very nice places. So that's not really a story that would resonate with people. And we do have a beautiful building that's in the trees. It used to be out in the forest, but now it's centrally located near downtown Bellevue. So yeah, so it's just kind of hard to take this story that was really a great story. Now I don't think people can relate to it in the same way. And also just the word Montessori is kind of misunderstood in this particular group that we're surrounded by.
I think that's well said, Susan. I think one thing you could really think about
hold on a minute. Okay.
Is what is the ethos? Maybe what's the original ethos of that school?
Mary, could you mute if you're going to be talking to
someone? We're hanging in. We're crossing
Mary,
the T's and
Mary
dotting the
Reinhardt,
I's, and all the projects hopefully will be done.
Kristen, you might be able to mute
thing
her.
on this list for you, but I don't know what it is.
Sorry, I'm not the host here, so
anyway,
I can't do much. But
Kristen,
if you can mute her.
if you go to the participant list,
okay,
which is in your bottom section,
I still have a home
near screen share.
I just sent her a direct message, but I don't know if it's going to work.
And you can find her name, Kristen, and mute her.
Yeah.
Intentions are he's been slow to commit to anything.
Right.
Okay, so we are now about a decade into Zoom, and we're still trying to figure this out.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm in the participants.
Back and forth with him a little bit.
So her name, Mary
Reinhardt.
You can
look at the roof.
Can you go over her name and click the three dots?
Just go to her.
Yes, just go to her name.
Second story addition. And I said, well, I'm a contractor. I can do that.
And of course, I don't have them all laid out. Mary.
So the last I heard from
or you can change me to the host, and I'm happy to help.
Look at the roof or look at the house.
Yeah.
That was supposed to happen on Friday.
I don't see her on the list, but okay.
So I'm not sure if it happened.
I'm sorry, folks. Hang in there with us.
Camera in front of my house.
Oh, there we go, Cindy. Thank you. There we go. Good stuff.
Cindy was able to do it. Thank you. Sorry about that. I could not even see. Okay. And then I'm like, what was the question? This was about the story. Yes,
Yes.
that Susan
Susan
had said.
Ross.
Okay, I think that the origin story, sometimes it's not as like something you can grab onto the way we did with Gabby, but it still informs kind of the spirit
Yeah.
of the place, right? It informs like what's the spirit of this place and where does this, what does this make us today? Kind of like, being the OG Montessori in Seattle. What does that mean for us today? How does that mean we
Yeah.
behave? And then also I think, okay, what is it like to endure for over 60 years? And what does that mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would assume pretty
Kristen,
remarkable.
yeah, if I could add to that, I think that you just hit the idea. There's, I like to think of schools as having a DNA. There's
Yeah.
something there, and what DNA does is replicate itself. It may grow up, it may become an adult, it may change form as the school matures, but there's still a DNA under there, and that can be recovered. So even if the story isn't something that necessarily translates today perfectly, what carries forward? Maybe it's values, maybe it's the animating purpose of the school. But in that DNA, what that conversation about what's in the DNA of the school, you might find that thread that goes back to day one, and can become that part of what Kristen's talking about.
And then I think that's very powerful because it's like a legend to tell, right? It's rooted in authenticity, not just like, oh, the marketing people thought this sounded good, which is very powerful. I
Kristen,
look like, oh, you got that, Cindy, that
well,
question?
yeah, the story for enrollment and fundraising are the same, is the question.
Yeah.
Are they the same?
I do not think those are the same. And what I
Mhm.
would ask you guys to do is do that exact same exercise of the brand advocate. So what do our parents care about versus what does our community care about? And those are probably different things.
Hmm.
And so trying to, curate a message for them specifically, like, is the fundraiser, are we asking people, or is it just for our, families and their friends, or are we asking the wider community to donate? Why would the wider community care? Is it their block? Is it their neighborhood? Is it because they care about, kids that are going to be a part of our society at large? Like, what is that message? That's why that tool about the brand advocate, I cannot emphasize enough. If there's only one thing you take away, it can be so easy to get in our own echo chamber where we are listening to ourselves talk about ourselves, and we really have to step out and we have to think, why do I deserve any of their time, which is our most valuable resource?
We have another question. What are the different ways to know what the community needs or parents need? Some ideas.
When you're talking about needs, Mona, do you mean like from a messaging standpoint or just like in general?
Just in general, or like what do they really need from the school? That's becoming a challenge right now. I just want to say about the story quickly, and Kathy has a lot of things for me to say. I felt like just now I asked my daughter, what does our school do? What is our school story? And she said that it's a generations, which is so true. I have a neighbor here. He still introduces me by saying that my son used to go, whereas he has grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Mm.
Uh,
So we are seeing that every, like, we have a parent who was a student in our school and now her daughter is a,
Oh,
a child. So my question now, it's becoming, that was it's not a history, but that was like generations coming. But now we are getting more new parents, new people who do not know this. So how can we get ideas? Like, that's why I was wondering, like, what are that's where my question was coming from.
okay, so I think the question answer part of these is always the best part because what I would say, Mona, is like, why should new parents care?
Exactly. That's my thing. Like, why will the parents care that it was a generation?
I mean, it's pretty interesting to me. It says a lot about it. It says a lot about like how ingrained in the space that it
yeah.
is, the fact that people keep coming back, that they maybe even live here because of that reason. I think there's probably a lot of threads to pull on. I would pull
Yeah.
on those threads, but start with why should they care?
Okay.
And there may be, and I know we're coming up on the end of our time here, so we were at the end of the hour. We can I'll look at the Hoot folks and see if they want to hang on longer. But the part of this is going back and having the conversation with those folks that do come back multi-generationally. And I'm hearing more and more of that as I go to Montessori schools. I think many Montessori schools are old enough now to have multi-generational families in the school, where I do hear the story of, why, when I say, why are you here? Well, I went here, and so I wanted my kid to go here. Why? And it's not just I want them to have the same thing. What was it that you want them to have?
Yes.
What made it? So I think you drill very deeply into that conversation with people.
FYI, when Peter and I are doing the course, I think Sue Pritzker's on here too. When we're doing our whole school leadership course, we begin to hear stories of the children grew up and now they're in their 40s and what they're doing now. And for us, it's so valuable to hear what happened to the kids that went through our school years and years ago. But it's so wonderful when parents can hear, what became of them. And I don't think that Montessori schools do very much of that. And it's kind of like a fictional advocate, but it's for real. You're actually hearing about the outcomes of people who are now in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and they're just amazing.
And I bet
we are right at 8 o'clock, Kristen. So, forgive me, I'm in the Eastern time zone. So wherever you are, translate. So I want to say, if you need to stay if you can stay with us, please do. If you need to drop off, we understand. And is this being recorded? I believe it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and someone from Hoot will reach out with the recording sometime in the next few days, so you'll have access to it. But go ahead. Sorry. Anyone else?
The one thing I was going to say about that is I think when you start pulling on those threads, it would be some really interesting storytelling. And then it would be like, how many of them said the same thing? Like, is it because of the relationships they made? Is it because of the independence they built? But that is where like your juicy info is,
Right. Yep. It's a great one to plant the seeds for people to be motivated to want to come back.
Yes, and we're happy to help anybody we can, through this process, whether in Autumn, I know, how can we learn? You can learn more about us, hootdesigncompany.com. But we will follow up. We have some downloads we think will be very helpful for you guys. So when we follow up with the recording, we will also send you guys a link to our downloads. It's a lot of tools on how to build out some of these things. And then, of course, we would welcome a strategy call with anybody for free, of course, if you want to hear more about it or have us talk you through some of the things we've seen in the past. So thank you guys for your time.
At the end of the slides that you get, there will be both companies' URLs that you can click on ours. We have a blog. I have a Substack. You can go out and read all of that. Much of it will probably end up being things you'll say, great, I should call Hoot about. So I encourage you to take advantage.
It would be great if this group begins trying things and we could come back together and report it. It'd be great to do another follow-up where we hear what people tried. So
I'm in if Kristen and her team are in. So we'll leave it to you, Kathy, to organize, because you rounded up this gang.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys for having us. We would love that.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
You're awesome.
Good day. Good morning, wherever you are.